All right, we're on the last part of weapons of mass destruction, and we're talking about computers. Okay? And when I first started teaching at McMurray 25 years ago, and I was talking about weapons of mass destruction, I'm sorry, I did not talk about computers. Computers is a pretty recent introduction. They've only started being used as a weapon of war starting around 2007, the administration of George W. Bush. So they've only been around as weapons for only 13 years. But the problem is, now, they're pretty common. So let's just go through a couple of things to know about them. A couple of examples for you. There's one, we have to be careful because there's computer crime. And so you think of ransomware, for example. And then there's using computers as a weapon. Let me give you an example of computer as a crime. Ransomware, there are some people who hacked in, and the first time it happened was in 2016. They hacked into Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, and they took over their computer system. Without the computers, there was no medical records. You couldn't run x-rays. You couldn't do lab tests. You couldn't even admit people. And so these hijackers said, we will give you back your control of your computers if you pay us, and are you ready for this, $28,000. Hospital quickly paid. That was it. Then 2018 and 2019, during the summer, several towns in Texas were attacked by hijackers, also wanting ransomware. And so all of a sudden you go to work and you work at a city, well, your computer doesn't work. You have no control over it. You want to pay bills online. You couldn't do it because the city didn't have any control over it. These hijackers, these computer hijackers, did. And they held out for ransom. Okay? That is an example of computer crime. Now, let's switch it around. When it's done for political purposes, when it's done by a state actor, it's a whole nother thing. One of the sillier ones was Kim Jong-un in North Korea, and this occurred in 2015. Sony Pictures in Hollywood made a movie called The Interview, and it was about the killing of Kim Jong-un. It's not a very funny movie, even though it was meant as a comedy. It's really not very good. But Kim Jong-un got angry about it. And so as a consequence, Sony Pictures, their computer system was hijacked, film scripts were stolen, emails were stolen, just so Kim Jong-un could make a point. Turns out that Kim Jong-un is also behind some of the hacks of, when you hear about computer theft of credit cards, that sort of stuff, sometimes they come from North Korea, and it's simply a way for them to make money. They steal it by stealing our credit card numbers. Pretty weird. Okay, what I want to focus on, though, is something more deadly. Iran was developing nuclear weapons, and part of the nuclear weapon design process is to have centrifuges that spin. The United States and Israel, starting in about 2007, hacked into their computer system and put a little something in the program, the software, that caused those centrifuges to spin faster and faster and faster, so fast that they self-destructed. And as a consequence, the Iranian nuclear weapon program really took a hit and could not develop nuclear weapons for a long period of time. It was so long, in fact, that Barack Obama was able to negotiate a treaty with Iran and say, hey, guess what? You can't develop nuclear weapons anymore. We'll give you money so that you don't do that. And they were in need of that treaty, I hate to say, because they did not have the technical know-how to overcome the bug that was put in there by the United States and Israel. Okay? Iran retaliated against the United States, and it tried to take over using a phishing scheme. It tried to take over the computers at a nuclear power plant in New York State. Thank God they failed to do that. But that was their retaliation. Now, you look at what's going on. China and Russia are using computers to interfere with the American election. Iran is using computers to interfere with the American election. You wonder what they are willing and able to do. Several years ago, China broke into the Office of Personnel Management, which is an organization of the U.S. government that controls all the personnel files for anybody who works for the U.S. government. So if you applied for a job, they had your file. If you were working there, they had your file. If you were getting a background check, they had your file at the Office of Personnel Management. Well, China hacked into that, stole all that information, and as far as we know, hasn't done anything with it yet. What are they waiting for? I don't know. But when you think about the information that you put on an employment application, you think about the information that's required when you're getting a background check. And the idea is that information is now in the hands of the Chinese. That is a little scary. One of the concerns with, and we've talked about this in class, with the president ordering the killing of the Iranian number 2 person, Soleimani, on January 2nd, was that Iran would retaliate. One of the concerns is that they would retaliate with some sort of computer response. Maybe they have already. Maybe they're trying to interfere with the election as part of that retaliation. I don't know. What you get concerned about when you talk about computers is, can some foreign country or even a terrorist take over the computers in like a water treatment plant and reverse the water, so instead of flushing down, it comes back up. Instead of filtering the water, it's no longer filtered. Turning off the power to a utility company. Those are the things that are deeply concerning, and those are things that are very, very possible under the abilities of a whole bunch of countries, but especially right now, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. All right, so this concludes all my talk about weapons of mass destruction. 4 tapes, 11A, B, C, and D.